Ouriel, welcome to Validated.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad we could finally get you on. So there's a ton I want to dive into and talk about today. I think a good way to frame this is we've known in crypto basically since Bitcoin that custody solutions are not very good, right? Centralized custodians have the FTX problem, self-custody solutions have the seed phrase problem, and as we've seen recently in Paris, the wrench attack problem associated with them. And there's been a whole bunch of different approaches over the years to try and address that, from original versions of sharded wallets to MPC wallets to smart contract wallets. And so I kind of want to spend a bunch of this time today going through a little bit of the history and evolution of the custody part of security, and also how that interfaces with program security, which is becoming more and more of a component as well. One of the main things that's on my mind after this is the amount of sophistication of Lazarus Group against Bybit with basically hacking Safe itself, not even hacking Bybit. And just how people even should be thinking about safety, both on a personal level and then sort of at an institutional level. But let's kind of start off a little bit more with you and your background and what you guys have been building.
Well, thanks for having me, Austin. And I think you framed really well the major questions that still surround our industry, which is security, crypto security, whether this is personal or corporate institutional. I've been dealing with this problem now for the past 7 years. I've been in my past life many times entrepreneur, an investor, and like many, I fell into the crypto rabbit hole and never get out of it, mostly out of curiosity and now out of necessity, because I think it's an inevitability that crypto is going to be a thing. So I heard, if the rumors are correct. And what we've been building for all these years is a wallet that you cannot lose, a crypto wallet that you cannot lose, whether this is by human errors or by external attacks. And that means a lot of things. And we can deep dive into the way the security of the wallet of my company called Zengo, which now lands into the Solana ecosystem, operates. But really a problem that has been really hard to figure out in the industry is how do you make sure you never lose your crypto, right? Yeah. And it's really, really hard because you either need to trust something and trust someone, and trusting is a problem. There's a reason why the cybersecurity is so gigantic, is because humans are really bad at making these decisions, and forever, since kings exist and until now. And the reason is because people have no idea. They have no idea about what they don't know or what they don't know yet. And they think they know, and they think they are guided. And at some point, they're going to make a fatal mistake, whether this is for themselves or as part of a corporation. And so there is kind of this eternal race of how do you make sure that you minimize the risk of your exposure, but also never compromise on user experience, because you can make something that is incredibly secure, but that is a disaster to use, right? The typical experience is I have a house, I'm going to put like 20 locks, and now my house is secure. But now every time I need to get into my house, I have to open all these 20 locks. Oh shit, I forgot. I can enter through the window, don't even need those locks anymore. So you can make all sorts of bad calculations like that. And it's about the same thing in crypto. And my past life has been around dealing with very, very complex problems, but resolved very elegantly with user experiences that make sense and that don't hurt you and that don't transform you into your own problem. And so that's what we've been trying to do with Zengo, which is a self-custodial wallet where it is extremely easy to set up, but extremely hard to lose or extremely hard to attack. And so we have a solution that works for individuals, which has been around now for the past 6 years. And Zengo is now in the most popular crypto wallets on the market. If you Google best crypto wallet, you're going to find us very, very quickly. And we're launching in the next 2-3 weeks a solution for businesses that extend the experience that we've built for individuals, because that problem also exists, as you already described in your introduction, for corporations, whether you are a small team or a very large team. And this problem is increasing over time as the security attack vectors and possibilities of risk and human errors are increasing. The industry becoming more and more complex. So my entire time, 24/7, is thinking about those questions, but without never trying to compromise on what it means to build a user experience that actually makes sense when you are serious about crypto. So happy to deep dive a little more, and we can talk about all the solutions that are on the market. And there are many serious players. But to my taste, I think we're still early in the race of how to make that work for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, so we're a technical show here, right? We had Charles, CTO of Ledger, on talking about their smart card technology. This was before they had the recovery system on. We had one of the founders of Cordial on, which is another custodial system built on Tendermint, interestingly enough, made for sort of like a more of a market maker type system. But it seems like as we go through the technology stacks, a lot of stuff boils down to like, oh, maybe the air gap computer really is the only thing that is secure at the end of the day. It's also very unusable, right? And so I want to dive into like how the thing you guys have built actually works, where the vulnerabilities do exist, because of course, as we know, there is no invulnerable system. It's just a question of choosing what compromises you want to bring in when you're looking at a system. And then also a little bit of the expansion to Solana. It's not an EVM system. Things work a bit differently here. Like how has that process been too?
Of course. So like just a little bit of history, typically crypto wallets have been built on private key technologies, whether you are a hardware wallet or software wallet. What basically the job to be done of a wallet is to protect the private key. And all the security is around your ability to protect the private key in the solution that you're using, whether software or hardware. And second, making sure that out of the wallet, the backup of the private key is also kept secure, which is usually most of the problems happen. And what we see is that, or I would say the principle of crypto security is if something can be lost or stolen, it will be lost or stolen, because there is something to be stolen or there's something to be lost. And it doesn't matter how it's protected. In effect, even if you're on a hardware wallet and you get lured into a phishing scam, because you think you are downloading the software of the hardware wallet you are using, then you are going to give away that seed phrase or that private key, and then it's game over. It happens night and day, 24/7, all day long, on Twitter, on Discord, by email, etc., etc. So if it can be stolen or if it can be lost, it will be lost. And that's a problem of security by design. So what has been tried since then is to kind of develop new kind of technologies that can neutralize that risk. Like can you build something that cannot be stolen? So an air gap, obviously, computer is indeed secure, but in an economy where crypto is starting to be used at a high frequency basis to make transactions, to play on games, to play on bets, to buy NFTs, to pay for things in the real economy, that's obviously not an option. You want something that is at the same time secure, meaning connected to basically to your pocket, and that is secure and that you cannot lose and that cannot be stolen. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit about the cryptography and what happens since private key technology, cryptography has been existing, just like forever nearly. We've been the first company, I think one of the first, if not the first, that has developed a wallet built on multi-party computation, MPC. And now it's kind of a buzzword, and you can see people talking about MPC all around. And I think it's worth reminding what it is, but it's worth reminding ourselves that 6 years ago, there was literally nothing. The only real options for self-custody was a private key wallet. They were the early days of smart contract wallet or smart wallet, if you want to call them that way, which usually have one important limitation is they work only in the EVM ecosystems. They cannot work with Solana, of course, but they cannot work also with Bitcoin, the elephant in the room. They need to work only in the EVM, and Safe is an example of that. There are sometimes great solutions, but they are just like not scalable to your day-to-day needs if you want to expand to all the ecosystems. So then happens MPC. MPC, what is the principle of MPC? Well, MPC was not invented with crypto. It existed before. The principle is that instead of relying, and I will kind of simplify a little bit, but instead of relying on a single secret to perform a calculation or an operation, you basically generate independent secrets that together, by way of mathematical operation and zero knowledge operation, are going to perform the same role together, but without revealing to each other their existence. In the case of a wallet, where traditionally you have a public key and a private key, you will have a public key, so it's still like on-chain with a normal wallet, but you'll have independent secrets that will not be in the same place, that will never be generated in the same place, that will never meet, and that will allow together to sign a transaction. It sounds like a minor difference, but there's a huge consequence, is that at no point there is a single point of failure from a crypto security point of view, meaning that in the old world of wallets, single factor wallet, as we call them here, where you could steal one secret and then compromise the wallet. Here, if one secret is stolen, then the wallet cannot be compromised.
Right.
That's nice and great, but what does that mean in effect in terms of user experience? And so the way we've implemented it, because there are many ways you could implement it, the way we have implemented it is we've built a mobile app which generates for yourself, and it's called obfuscated from the user, a secret, independent secret on your mobile phone. And we Zengo, as a company, we have a server which generates a secret on its side. And together, and there is all the cryptography is open source and been peer reviewed many, many times, the secrets together can sign transactions. Now, the interesting part of it is you can say, well, if you're part of the chain, maybe you can actually steal the funds from your users because you're part of the mechanics of signing transaction. But we've built the MPC in a way where only the user is actually in control of the chain of command, meaning that only him can start transactions, only him can define transactions, only him can decide when a transaction is being signed, and we co-sign it at the end. So we can never start a transaction or get control of the funds of the user.
Right. So I want to get into some of the technicals of how this works because so I think most people are familiar with like Fireblocks as an MPC custodian where they have two copies of keys or two versions of secrets by two independent systems that they have. The user holds one, two can reconstruct the third, and that's how you have recoverability. But I think as we saw with Ledger, like if you control the device's firmware, you control upgradability, right? You can push a new firmware version that allows the extraction of a secret key from a system that Ledger said for a long time, there's no way to get the private key off this thing. Well, turns out it's not true if you control the firmware. I think you could say a very similar thing about many MPC solutions where undoubtedly you guys have software systems in place that have rules around where a transaction can be initiated. Is there actually cryptography backing that? Like if you were hacked, for example, would an attacker also not be able to initiate a transaction?
Yeah, very good question. Let me just first go backwards to what you said. Actually, any wallet, any hardware wallet or any software wallet is a firmware wallet, meaning that indeed any solution that has a software can be upgraded towards a solution that can take over the transaction experience, the control of the transaction experience. And so hardware wallets, which are often considered as a gold standard, need to be considered as firmware wallet. And you see the proof of that when there is a phishing attack where a fake software take over your software. They completely compatible with your hardware wallet, but basically they behave maliciously. And that's true also of any software wallet. It could happen to MetaMask, it could happen to Phantom, it could happen to us. And so that's a real structural need that exists. Now, the question is, how do you mitigate that? So back to your second question about cryptography. So yes, we decided, and it was an expensive choice that we made day one, is to open source completely the cryptography that we use in the app. Now, it's nice. It's great to open source cryptography, and maybe I'm going to shoot a bullet in the foot, but that's far from enough. Why? Because eventually the app, even if you open source your application, your mobile application, the way they are embedded into app stores is that they are signed by app stores, and there's no verifiable way to verify that the app is exactly the app that you are actually saying it is, and doing the job you say it is. So how do you mitigate that? Well, you do often security audits. You have all sorts of, like, once you reach like a certain size, like we do, we are observed from all sorts of like companies in security that checks what we say, if what we say is true, is not true. Sometimes they discover vulnerabilities, and no one is perfect. Like, now I want to kind of highlight one data point. We've been around for 6 years. We have very close to 2 million registered customers. We never had a single case of account takeover, not one. You could take any wallet on the market and maybe any exchange, they would not even get remotely close to that. And it's not just about how the wallet is secure, right? Maybe they're doing a pretty good job at protecting the private key. The question is, do you also protect the user? And do you protect him from himself? And the way we've built it, and the way we have built the authentication and the user experience and the recovery experience is so far extremely robust, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Sure.
And the reason,
let's get into that a little bit. Like,
exactly.
How does that actually work?
Exactly. The reason it works, and let me go back to the first principle that I said, if there is something that can be stolen, it will be stolen.
Sure.
Right? If there is a password, a seed phrase, a private key, whatever you want to call it, it will be stolen. So what we've built at Zengo, and you would have to kind of see it for yourself to believe it, because it's a magical moment, is that we've built a completely passwordless experience where at no moment there is something to write, there is something to store, or there's something to remember, in such a way that even if someone was impersonating us, you would not know what to give away. So that's a kind of high-level principle. Now, how does that work in terms of user experience? What are the steps that you have to go through?
Well, I want to focus less on user experience and more on under the hood, what's actually happening, right? So I'm guessing, right? You're generating a secret on a device. Yes. It's probably being stored in a secure element if it's on a phone. But then there's obviously the syncing problem, right? Of like, okay, well, if I lose my phone, we have to generate recovery somehow. So I want to kind of run through on a lower level. Like, the UX is like, wallet UX is a whole topic we could talk about. And it's awesome. You guys have been doing so much work on that. But I think like that component that I really want to dig into is like, under the hood, what's going on, to make sure these things are both. It's very easy to build a system that's recoverable. It's very easy to build a system that is secure. It's very hard to build both. And that's kind of the detail I want to like dive into here.
Correct. So the way you set up your wallet is the way you actually create the recovery. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no two parts. Usually in a wallet, you create an account, and then you have like the famous like back up your seed phrase and all sorts of warning. Yeah. So the way it works in Zengo is that you have one flow which actually does both things. And the way it works and the steps are this way. When you create the wallet, indeed, behind the scene, a secret share is generated on the phone. The way the recovery works is that we use 3-factor of authentication. One, which is the email that you own, where we send a magic link. The 2, it's a cloud service that you control, which can be iCloud, Google Drive, or Dropbox. Mm-hmm. You can actually combine all 3 if you want. And finally, an liveness biometrics of your face, which looks like Face ID, but is actually even better than Face ID, agnostic to the OS that you are implementing. And there's going to be an encryption of your signature on your phone that we are going to receive on our server. This encrypted share cannot be used by Zengo because it's encrypted by your device.
Yep.
And so when you recover, you call from your cloud service that encrypted recovery share that we have stored, that again, we cannot use in any way, even if we wanted to, and we became evil. And finally, your liveness check is going to decrypt that secret share and enable the restoration of your wallet on your new phone, even if you lose a new phone. And the experience is pretty magical because you don't even realize it. It's going super fast. And you have not written anything. You have not written a password. You have not received an SMS second-factor authentication. You have not used Google Authenticator. You have not used a seed phrase, of course, and no private key and no weird code. It's just going like super smooth and super fast. So what needs though, and maybe I can see your question coming, and it's important to remind it, where are the point of failure in the system.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you lose control of your email, or if you lose control of your cloud service, or if you lose your face, we can talk about that, then you will not be able to recover your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And all those three things need to happen, right? You need to have control of your email, control of your cloud, control of your face. And the way we've built the security experience, and we went even further down, and I think probably one of the deepest in terms of like how to think about recovery problems. For all those three steps, you have a fallback. You can add a second email. You can add multiple clouds. If you lose your iCloud, you can have a Dropbox, you have Google Drive, and you can add an additional face, trusted face, in case something happens to your face. Can happen, accidents, surgery, whatever, aging, etc., etc. So the probability of you not being capable of recovering your wallet, which exists because you can indeed lose some of the things, is becoming incredibly low by augmenting the security, the protection, thanks to those fallbacks. So that's how it works. We went even further because I was talking about wallets are doing a pretty good job at protecting the private key, but not the user. It so happens that in life, you are also, as a human being, exposed to all sorts of risks that can cause you to lose your crypto. So simple case, someone steals your phone, right? Steals your phone and they know the PIN code, right? And, it's called, shoulder theft, right? The people looking over your shoulder in a conference, in a bar, wherever, they know your PIN code. And from that moment, they can drain your wallet.
Yeah.
Any
or
wallet.
I have a friend whose ex stole a bunch of crypto from them.
There you go. So, or you live in a shared apartment and all sorts of situations like that. So we've built a service of theft protection, which stops the transaction at the ultimate level of approval, where you have to use your actual face with the liveness protection that we have enrolled you when you came in. You don't need to do something else. It's already, again, part of the enrollment process and the onboarding process. What happens if you die? What happens if you die? We're all going to die, by the way, spoiler alert. Sorry to ruin your day, but at some point, that's life. We're going to die. What do you do with your crypto? You put them on a paper and you give them to someone. So hopefully they will get them there one day. Probably not a good idea. It's never a good idea to share your seed phrase with anyone. So we've built a service that knows how to program a legacy transfer to someone that you trust. And it's done super elegantly by just a system of invite by email, where the crypto is only transmitted after a very long period of inactivity and multiple reminders of what you do. Finally, and we can talk about that, there is physical protection. What happens if you are kidnapped or if you are attacked in the street, or something that happened, for example, in this week, sadly, in Paris, actually many times. So we've built a service, we called it the Vault, that protects your crypto even in the case of physical attack, where you are actually even yourself incapable of moving your own crypto, even if you want to, even if you're under duress, because the send button has been removed and there's a time lock system that allows you to recover your crypto later on. And it's extremely easy to set up. So we back again to this kind of easy to set up experience. It's part of the onboarding process. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to be a PhD expert in security in order to have the kind of these mechanics. You just need to understand there are some risks that exist and that you have very easy solutions to set them up. So the way security is built into Zengo is not just at the onboarding and recovery level, but it's accompanying you around across all the risks that you can be exposed to as a human being. And we think about security as a human experience versus a engineering or crypto expert experience. And that leads to the product that we have that we've created. And this that would have been possible to build as such if we would have used private key cryptography. We had to use some sort of programmable security primitive, like MPC enables. We could have maybe used multi-sig, but multi-sig also has some strong limitations. We could have used smart contract wallet, but there is like obviously ecosystem limitations. MPC seemed to be at the time, and it is definitely today, the best compromise to do it. And there's a reason why there's so much crypto protected by MPC today, especially in the institutional world. So that's kind of at the high level how it works.
Nice. And so I want to pivot a little bit into what the business case looks like, because wallets have been historically something that's very useful, obviously, in the ecosystem. There's a lot of competitive wallets out there. The majority of wallets don't have great business models. They're generally just taking some bips on in-app fee swaps or something along those lines. And there's those business models. They exist. Some of them can feel a little similar to the way centralized exchanges make money on users by charging, high fees above what you could get execution otherwise. Like, what does that kind of look like both today and kind of where do you think the long term is? Are we going to get to a world where 80% of users are paying $5 a month for a wallet? Or what does that kind of look like in your view?
So you're right in your analysis. Since historically, wallets have had a hard time to monetize, but less because it's starting to become more popular. Traditionally, there was always kind of this like, where I put my crypto, put I put them in a wallet or do I put them in an exchange? And for the greater part of the story, crypto people were preferring exchange. Why? Because they look familiar, the fees are cheaper, everything feels faster. But there are two limitations. The first one is security. With FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, people started to realize that you might not want to keep all your crypto there. Even if you're not getting hacked, you start to feel the limitations of censorship because crypto exchanges have rules, and sometimes very abusive rules to censor or to limit because of compliance, the compliance stack. And so people want like more freedom. That's reason number one. Reason number two, people started to feel that they cannot do certain things with crypto exchange. The more and more the crypto economy is developing on chain, certain games, certain apps, in the ecosystem of Solana, for example, if you want to do pub.fun, you can't do pub.fun with a Coinbase account or a
and good luck
account.
getting Fireblocks to let you connect their wallet to it.
Correct. So you need like to be on chain. You need a wallet. So that's kind of the second primary reason. And today there are so many great things that you can do on chain that now the equilibrium between wallets and exchanges starting to rebalance dramatically. And as it rebalances, the volume of people using wallets more than exchanges has enormously changed, and therefore the possibility to monetize also. Now, traditionally, indeed, crypto wallets monetize with trading fees.
Yeah.
Not a rocket science model, but it can be a very profitable one. And some companies like MetaMask and Exodus, which is now a public company, making an enormous amount of revenues based on BPS they take on swaps. Okay, very fine. And you can also have revenues derived from on-ramps, from off-ramps. But the way we are looking, the way we see the industry evolve is that wallets are progressively becoming a banking system for the on-chain economy and at large for, in certain countries, even for the economy. And so the business model of wallets is evolving toward a banking system. What do I mean by that? Is that indeed banks traditionally monetize with fees. They will charge you all sorts of fees here and there. But that's not enough. They will offer you also financial products that will generate all sorts of revenues. For example, loans, and in crypto we can call that staking. And they will offer also paid services. If you're looking at companies like Revolut and all the neobanks, they have kind of this layer type of services that they sell you, which includes like paid subscription package, in which you will have all sorts of services. So with Zengo, we were the first wallet, I think, in the industry to have such an approach where you have a free product, which is monetized with trading fees, and then Zengo Pro, which is a subscription product, which gives you all sorts of commercial and security benefits. And today they are very minimalistic, but they are adding more and more, like, free gas fees and, less fees, of course, when you buy and when you swap, but also all sorts of additional benefits like fast customer support in your own language in real time, etc., etc. And so that's kind of the second layer of monetization, like, a subscription.
So it sounds really like what you're getting at is that like the revenue streams of a mature wallet company will be much more similar to that of a bank, where
Correct.
Like there's actually, you can't really say what's the one way banks make money. And I mean, the answer is having money. But apart from that, like they really make money through like it's 5% revenue from here, 7% from here, 20% from here. It's a pretty diversified stream.
Correct. And they stack up, one on top of the other. And, in crypto wallets, it's not just for Zengo, but in general, the same dollar will generate you multiple times revenues.
Yeah.
One at the on-ramp level, one at the off-ramp level, one at the swap level, one at the staking level. And so they kind of this like a lifetime value of the same dollar that works multiple times, and that adds up. And on top of that, you have the revenue stream derived from subscription revenues.
Yep.
What we start to see also is some companies, we are late to the game, but we also getting into that, is offering the wallet technology to businesses so that teams,
Right.
whether they are a 2-person team to multi-person team, can secure their business on chain and can orchestrate transactions securely versus depending on a private key or even on an MPC wallet built for an individual, but can have this time a proper solution that is corporate grade with an on-ramp and an off-ramp that is friendly with KYB and your processes of a company, export to accounting system, tax reporting, etc., etc., etc.
Awesome.
So that kind of this kind of layer, and the way I see the wallet economy evolving is, at least for primary wallets, we could talk about embedded wallets, but for primary wallet, I think the business model is going to be very, very similar to banking, with one difference is that the rails are on chain, and therefore it will be very easy to be transparent or very hard to obfuscate what you charge to customers, like happens in the banking world, right? I don't know which bank you're using, but everyone has that bad experience. You open your bank statement and you see all sorts of fees and you don't understand what they are. They're written in gibberish and you cannot verify them. With the wallet, where everything is on chain, so you can always go back to something that is traceable and that can be verified and that can be attributed.
Yep.
So that's kind of thing the main differences. We didn't talk about embedded wallets, which is a very different type of business. The embedded wallets are wallets that are part of an application, which could be a DEX, a game, or whatever, and that will generate a specific wallet for that application. And usually those are monetized by selling that service to the developers. Okay, so it's basically a license, a software license, the way you buy a storage or password management, and those very different type of business, a very different type of audience. They serve developers first and customers second, versus primary wallets, which is our territory, where we serve customers first and only, and it's a branded service and it's a serviced wallet, and to end with a full stack financial set of services, from on-ramping to swapping, staking, and soon cards, etc., etc. So this is different part of the wallet business, but it's important to remind that it exists.
Awesome. Well, if folks are interested in learning more about your open source cryptography, if they want to download the wallet, where can they go to get started?
So Zengo.com is our URL. We have a GitHub on Zengo, which is a pretty popular library for MPC if people who are interested into that industry. We have an ad on Twitter at Zengo, and the best way is to actually try it. And what we usually say people is that don't use us first, use other wallets, and then you will enjoy us like even more with that confident.
Yep. Love it. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today on Validated.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.